Breaking news tonight, the dangerous flash flood emergency. Communities completely underwater. The dramatic rescues as catastrophic floods swamp neighborhoods. Homes nearly submerged. An alligator swimming down a flooded street. And the urgent evacuations fears this dam could give at any moment. Our reporter in the storm zone. Plus the tornado outbreak carving a path of devastation. Twisters leveling homes and ripping the roof off this school. Also breaking tonight, gunshots in New York's Times Square, people running for their lives, officers racing in. The chaos as millions descend on the Big Apple for the Knicks parade. This just in, the sudden reversal in the Luigi Mangione case. His team now withdrawing his psychiatric defense argument. The Iran deal dividing the Republican Party. How lead negotiator Vice President J.D. Vance is firing back at his own party. Ukraine's biggest attack on Moscow ever. The refinery struck, sending the lid of an oil drum soaring. The final image before a horse-drawn carriage accident. A teenage passenger killed. The growing calls to ban the carriages from Central Park. Former President Obama's star-studded presidential center opening. All three ex-presidents joining the celebrations. Life-saving car rescue. An officer breaking a window to save a 2-year-old left in the brutal heat. The chilling encounter in the waters, video capturing a shark circling a surfer. And the American heroes honored today. We speak with the veteran who put his own life on the line for his fellow soldiers, now receiving the military's highest honor. Nightly News starts right now.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Llamas.
And good evening. It's great to be with you tonight. We want to start with that dangerous 1-2 punch from Mother Nature. A flash flood emergency down south and a violent and catastrophic tornado outbreak across the Midwest. Right now, the remnants of Tropical Storm Arthur are bringing life-threatening floods to the south. At least 180 homes flooded out in Louisiana alone, and that number is growing. Look at this rescue here. A boat needed to save people trapped in trailers nearly underwater in Mississippi. And we're also following evacuations over concerns a dam might fail, with officials warning people to rush to higher ground. And we even saw an alligator, you see it right here clearly, lurking in the waters of this Louisiana neighborhood. And in the Midwest, a massive tornado outbreak. This is the path of destruction, one left behind. The scale of that destruction is shocking. With scenes like this, roofs ripped off a school in Illinois. You can see the classrooms there. We are in both storm zones tonight, and we want to begin with Priscilla Thompson in flooded-out Mississippi.
Tonight, catastrophic flooding triggering dramatic water rescues in Mississippi, where the remnants of Tropical Storm Arthur are still raging. In Stone County, a rescue team in this boat pulling one man to safety from a trailer surrounded by floodwaters. The devastation seen from above. Cars underwater and homes almost completely submerged. This man seen trudging through thigh-deep water to rescue his dogs. And this woman helped to safety. One state over in Louisiana, the National Weather Service says more than 180 homes are flooded across the state. This video capturing a boat rescue. And in a nearby suburb, an alligator seen here swimming down a flooded street just steps from homes. In Picayune, Mississippi, the water is still rising. People in this neighborhood told by the sheriff's department to evacuate. You're leaving.
Yeah, we've already left. We've taken the kids, the dog, and brought them to family.
I don't want to leave my house. I mean, if something happens to my house, I want to be there, but I don't know if we're going to be able to get out.
And Priscilla joins us now live from the flood zone in Mississippi. And Priscilla, not far from where you are tonight, there's a risk of a dam failing?
Yeah, Tom, you can see already how bad the flooding is all around me, in some cases up to people's doorsteps. And now officials are saying that Anchor Lake Dam could fail. It's about 15 minutes north of here, and urging people to get to higher ground because this could get much worse. Tom?
Priscilla Thompson leading us off. We are also tracking that tornado outbreak across the Midwest tonight, and Maggie Vespa and her team are in hard-hit Illinois.
Caught on camera, devastating tornadoes carving ruthless paths across multiple states. At least 13 twisters reported across 5 states overnight.
It be looking like it's on the ground.
Tonight, the destruction in rural Illinois is jaw-dropping.
It is wild how clear the path of this tornado was. Just home after home ripped apart. I mean, this one is completely destroyed.
This elementary school's roof ripped off.
That was my very first car when I was 16 years old.
In hard-hit Effingham, Michael Yeager's father started this auto supply store and classic car museum decades ago. Now it's decimated.
If you had to put a price tag on what was in that building, what is in that building?
Probably north of $5 million.
My husband comes running in. He's like, get down now. He's like, it's coming right for us.
Anissa Harrington ran for cover with her husband and 2 kids.
It was just so loud. You could hear that the house was starting to lift from the foundation. Yeah.
Now she and so many others struggling to pick up the pieces, with cleanup only beginning.
You could hear the terror in the voice of that resident right there. Maggie joins us now live from Effingham, Illinois. And Maggie, authorities say there were injuries where you're reporting from tonight?
Yeah, Tom, that's right, there were. And when you see damage this massive and this intense, you can absolutely understand why. Thankfully, authorities say no one was seriously injured or killed. Tom.
Maggie Vespa there in that tornado zone tonight. Maggie, we thank you. Here in New York City, a shooting in broad daylight in Times Square. Tourists were running for cover, but it comes during the biggest NYPD event operation ever to protect the Knicks victory parade. Sam Brock was there.
A terrifying scene in the heart of Times Square. The sound of gunshots sending people scattering in one of the most congested parts of New York City. Police say one person is in custody and no injuries at this time. The dramatic incident coming just hours after what the NYPD called its biggest planned operation ever. Securing Lower Manhattan for the Knicks parade after the team's first title in more than 50 years. A New York crowd coming out by the millions, flooding the streets with Broadway jammed shoulder to shoulder right along the parade route. Subways teeming and people just trying to sneak a peek. Other fans turned away hours before the parade even began because of crowds. The NYPD says an estimated 2 million people attended with no major incidents. The team stars, including point guard Jalen Brunson, soaking in the moment.
Damn, New York, we really did it, man. We really did it.
On a morning the city's euphoria permeated the streets.
The unity, it's unbelievable. We're all New York, we're all Knicks fans.
So often when this city comes together, it is because we are forced to, by a moment of tragedy or adversity. What a gift it is to be brought together by pure, unfiltered joy.
For so many, that joy still remains, but tonight a sobering reality. Securing the biggest city in the country is never without challenges.
And Sam Brock joins us now live. Sam, you were downtown this morning. You're in Times Square now. 10,000 police officers in just one section of New York City. What did that feel like?
That's exactly right. Look, police were everywhere. Every area, Tom, was barricaded. You mentioned the 10,000 police officers. That is the largest deployment ever for an event. So security was airtight. As for what's happening in Times Square, we found it from police recently. There were officers nearby. When they got that call, they responded right away, and the suspect is now in custody. Tom?
Sam Brock for us. Sam, we thank you. Now to some news just in that we will be very frank with you is somewhat surprising. Last night we told you Luigi Mangione would pursue a psychiatric defense in his case, seeming to acknowledge his role in the shooting and the killing. And now, just 24 hours later, a complete reversal. Erin McLaughlin joins us now live in studio with this breaking news. Erin, a lot of whiplash here.
Yeah, that's right, Tom. Luigi Mangione's defense team has formally notified the court that he is withdrawing his psychiatric defense at this time. That, according to a legal document filed today. The court responded, acknowledging the withdrawal while noting certain transcripts, email, and documents will remain sealed. It was just yesterday when the judge announced Luigi Mangione would pursue that psychiatric defense, which legally conceded that Mangione did kill United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in Midtown Manhattan in 2024. No explanation for the sudden reversal was given, but legal experts say it's possible he did not have medical corroboration to back up that defense. The trial is set to start in September.
Okay, Erin, we thank you for that. We want to turn to politics now. Vice President J.D. Vance pushing back, defending that preliminary peace deal with Iran amid growing backlash from top Trump allies. Monica Alvis at the White House.
tonight with a preliminary peace deal with Iran signed by President Trump. Vice President Vance, the lead negotiator for the 14-point Memorandum of Understanding, defending the framework, which now kickstarts 60 more days of talks.
There's a lot of discussion, the MOU, the gentleman's agreements, the final deal. Words don't matter, ladies and gentlemen. We're about verification.
And tonight, as part of the deal, CENTCOM says it lifted its blockade of Iranian ports after Iran stopped attacks on oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. But the administration facing growing criticism over other points in the framework, including from top Trump allies.
I don't want to give them any money.
For allowing Iran to start selling oil again and the promise of billions of dollars in unfrozen assets if Iran complies with the final agreement.
I think, unfortunately, the president is receiving some really bad advice on this deal. I don't want to see us send a penny to the Ayatollah.
The VP pushing back.
And it's a misrepresentation of the MOU. The idea that they get benefits before they change their behavior is fundamentally a talking point that is issued by people who want the conflict to continue indefinitely.
Vance pointing to average gas prices dropping under $4 a gallon and oil plummeting to around $77 a barrel, near where it was when the war began.
The president's peace plan in Iran is already bearing real fruits for the American people.
And the VP also going after critics of the deal in Israel.
Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel. Anybody in Israel who thinks their biggest problem is the president of the United States needs to wake up and smell the reality of the situation that country is in.
And Monica, this kicks off that 60-day window for more talks, and Vice President Vance will lead the U.S. delegation?
That's right. The vice president is actually expected to travel to Switzerland as soon as tonight for those discussions, as Iran's supreme leader today endorsed direct negotiations with the U.S. for a long-term deal. Tom?
Okay, Monica Alba at the White House. Some stunning images from Russia where a Ukrainian drone strike on an oil refinery sparked a massive explosion, part of the biggest attack on Moscow since the war started. Keir Simmons has the video tonight.
Tonight, the lid of an oil silo soaring into the air from the power of one explosion in Moscow. Outside the refinery, people run for their lives. Later, reports of black rain from burning oil. It's Ukraine's biggest attack on the Russian capital since the beginning of the war. In this video, the camera tracks a drone slamming into a residential building. Tonight, Russian authorities say 16 people were injured. The US once restrained Ukraine from attacking Russia directly. Now, Ukraine's President Zelensky calling this retaliation.
Putin is not stopping this war. He insists on continuing it, so the pressure must grow.
This week at the G7 summit, President Trump meeting with Zelensky and holding a call with President Putin, insisting peace is still possible.
Something's going to happen.
Tonight, Russian officials vowing to keep striking Ukraine, insisting Ukrainian drone strikes will not impact the Kremlin's determination. Tom?
Keir Simmons first. Keir, we thank you for that. Now to the star-studded opening for the Obama Presidential Center. The former president and first lady were joined by 3 other living presidents. President Trump was not invited, but may have been the focus of some veiled remarks. Kelly O'Donnell's in Chicago.
The Obama Presidential Center grand opening. The rare reunion of all 4 former presidents and first ladies. A moment that Bono put to music.
46, 42, and 43.
A snapshot of the decade since they left the White House. The daughters, who were little girls then, now young women.
Oh, I got my tissue in hand.
Michelle Obama spoke of her husband's accomplishments. Emotion filled his eyes, all while delivering a gentle yet pointed defense against unnamed critics.
How absurd it is to imagine that you might have done anything but make our family and this entire country proud.
President Trump was neither mentioned nor invited to attend this ceremony. President Obama said democracy requires this.
A belief in the peaceful transfer of power after the people have spoken in fair and free elections, recognizing that in a large, complicated society like ours, no group or faction gets its way 100% of the time.
A gallery of artists came together and moved the crowd to its feet. Organizers said they wanted this to be a joyful event. Tomorrow, something new begins as the Obama Presidential Center opens to the public. Tom?
Okay, Kelly, thank you for that. When we return in 60 seconds, a teen killed in a horse-drawn carriage accident in Central Park. The photo of the family taken just moments before the horse bolted. Plus, the officer who rescued a child trapped in a hot car. And the shocking video from above. Look at this, a shark getting way too close for comfort to a surfer in California. How this ended. We are back now with a heartbreaking story right here in New York City. A family taking a carriage ride in Central Park that turned deadly. And now there's a new push to ban the carriages altogether. Stephanie Goss now with the story and the video.
A terrifying moment in New York City's Central Park. A horse-drawn carriage bolting with 4 people inside. The Mahajan family visiting from India had this photo taken just before it happened. 18-year-old Romesh leapt to help his mother, according to a family member who spoke with NBC News. But he fell, hitting his head on the ground, and later died at a nearby hospital. Shocked witnesses described seeing the family.
They were crying, they were on the phone. The father, they were just trying to, comfort, the person on the ground.
According to the carriage drivers union, the driver got out to take a photo of the family, breaking one of its rules. That's when the horse ran, eventually slamming into another carriage.
Normally, there would be a line of horses and carriages here. The horses would be drinking the water from the trough, but today, after what happened yesterday, they did not show up for work.
A string of incidents, including Wednesday's tragedy, renewing calls to ban the carriages.
Enough is enough.
City Council member Christopher Marte spoke out on the issue last week.
What did you say to the City Council?
I said, how long are we going to have to wait? Are we going to have to wait until someone dies? And unfortunately, yesterday, someone did die.
The carriages have long been an iconic sight in Central Park, the backdrop to countless Hollywood scenes. Tonight, the union says it is gutted by the tragedy, but believe they can make changes to better protect the horses and their passengers. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News, New York.
Okay, when we return tonight, the body cam of a deputy breaking a window to save a child trapped in a hot car as temperatures top 90 degrees. And later, Cuba's big headline tonight, the major change decades after Fidel Castro took power. We'll tell you what's going on. We are back now with a dramatic rescue caught on camera. Look at this, a sheriff's deputy in Washington State breaking this car window to rescue a 2-year-old in the backseat on a 92-degree day. Authorities say the toddler was left alone in the hot car for 16 minutes. The deputy tries to soothe him as he brings him to safety. Authorities warn cars can reach 120 degrees on days that hot. The parents are now facing charges of reckless endangerment. Also tonight, Cuba's prime minister announcing big changes with the biggest reforms to Cuba's socialist model since Fidel Castro took power. The prime minister presenting Cuban lawmakers with measures to privatize a huge part of Cuba's economy. It comes after heavy pressure from the U.S. The shift was backed by Cuba's Communist Party, along with former leader Raul Castro. Promises like this have been made before in the past. And take a look at this new drone video of a shark circling a surfer in California. It happened not far from Santa Cruz and Monterey. The shark starts off as a shadow from a distance, but look how close it gets, swimming right up behind the surfer, just feet behind it before finally peeling off. All right, when we come back here at Nightly News, the honor today for one soldier who rushed into a hail of gunfire to save his brother in arms. His amazing story. That's next. Finally tonight, an American hero receiving the nation's highest military honor for his courage, for his action, risking his own life to save fellow soldiers. Courtney Cubie has his story.
Today, the commander-in-chief presenting the Medal of Honor to 3 veterans for going above and beyond the call of duty.
These are great men, great people.
Marine Corps Major James Capers and the late Colonel John Ripley for heroic actions in Vietnam. And retired Army Major Nick Dockery, who, while on a mission at a remote combat outpost in Afghanistan, led his men in repelling a massive Taliban ambush.
We were ambushed and we responded with the way that was most fitting.
Specialist Evan Baum was by Dockery's side.
I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for Nick.
and his decision making.
They fought more than 100 Taliban in close combat for more than 4 hours. Major Dockery shielded a fellow soldier from an enemy grenade, risking his life by repeatedly running across an open field to help his men when a blast hit them all. Suddenly, he realized Sergeant Jack Hansborough was missing.
The Taliban were trying to drag Hansborough away, and Nick took them out and was able to pull Hansborough back. Hansborough just falls like a sack of potatoes. So Nick begins, he takes his kit off and starts doing CPR.
While Dockery saved Hansborough's life, he says his fellow soldiers were the heroes that day.
Do you consider yourself a hero?
Heroism is on the battlefield. There are heroic actions that happen all the time. Can I see why people thought that things that I did was heroic? Certainly. But do I think the collective title hero is appropriate? I would say no.
But tonight, a nation honoring his courage. Courtney Kuby, NBC News, Washington.
And our thanks to the Dockery, Capers, and Ripley families for their service and sacrifice. That's Nightly News for this Thursday. I'm Tom Llamas. We thank you so much for watching. Tonight, and always, we're here for you. Good night. We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.